It all comes down to this. As in a massive New York Knicks coaching update, things have changed for the New York Knicks in regards to their hiring plans for the next head coach of the New York Knicks, with now two names clearly at the forefront of this, while also another shocking name has been thrown into the mix by a Knicks beat writer, and we are going to break all of this down. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Knicks Digest. It's Chris here, and we're going to jump right into things. As always, guys, if you are part of that 74%, make sure to subscribe to Knicks Digest. You guys have been killing it with the likes, the subs, the views, and let's keep that up. But more importantly, let's jump into this. There is a lot to go over with the New York Knicks. As we know, things have gotten very interesting, and one of the key names throughout this entire time that I've heard specifically and that I've mentioned on this channel already is that Jay Wright, former Villanova coach who, yes, coached Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges, Dante DiVincenzo, Ryan Arcidiacono, five guys who all were Knicks, three of them still currently are, and there's obviously the thought that if Wright comes back to coach basketball and coaches the Knicks, then likely we could get Dante DiVincenzo back, but the newest reports are indicating that Jay Wright likely is not going to be the next coach of the New York Knicks, as it was mentioned by Stefan Bondy and re-reported by Sleeper Knicks that Ime Udoka and Jay Wright are out as options as the next head coach of the New York Knicks. And on top of that, who we've seen replace Jay Wright has been Jason Kidd, who the Knicks have reportedly mutual interest between themselves and Jason Kidd, which is fairly surprising considering where Kidd is at with the Dallas Mavericks team that not only has Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving. I obviously know that Luka and Brunson are both gone, but they still have Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving and Cooper Flagg as long as they keep the pick. That's a very interesting team to coach with a tight-knit locker room, and because of that, it makes sense why Jason Kidd would not want to leave for New York, but Jason Kidd has shocked Dallas before and left for New York a good... Wow, that was 15 years ago now. So, no, it was 13 years ago. I can't count. 13 years ago, Jason Kidd did that before signing with the New York Knicks for his final season in the NBA. Obviously, soon after, started to coach the Nets, and then went to the Bucks, and then went to the Mavericks. And it becomes that situation of, all right, well, it's good to see that Jason Kidd, who has made the NBA Finals as a coach, is there and all that, but also, it's a guy who's bounced around teams. Are we sure that this is the guy who we want? That becomes the situation. He's coached historically a slower-paced offense, something that does not add up for this Knicks team. Now, yes, he's a more offensively minded coach, which is good. He's obviously a successful coach. A lot of people like him. But then you start to think about the fact that, okay, Jason Kidd, he has bounced around a bit. And on top of that, you just look at the other options that Leon Rose has in front of him, and one of them being Johnny Bryant, the guy who's been the favorite since Tom Thibodeau got fired. He was the heir apparent to Tom Thibodeau forever, and then obviously Tibbs is now fired, and it kind of felt like even though Johnny Bryant did leave the prior offseason for the Cleveland Cavaliers, that he always was going to stay connected to the Knicks. I mean, throughout this entire season, there have been comments on Knicks Digest about how the Knicks should fire Tibbs and hire Johnny Bryant. Fans did not forget about Johnny Bryant and the impact that he had on this New York Knicks team. So as long as Bryant is here and available, the Knicks are going to have substantial interest in Johnny Bryant. Now, I understand there's going to be a lot of reports surrounding a lot of different guys, but Johnny Bryant is going to be in the mix regardless. The Knicks like him, and you can't tell me it's not a coincidence that the Knicks fired Tibbs right as it seemed that Johnny Bryant was he was one of the two finalists for the Phoenix Suns head coaching job. Now, there are fans who are worried, like, why didn't Johnny Bryant get it? But part of it easily can do with the New York Knicks as well, which is important to note. So there's a lot to go over and consider in this situation. Now, all this being said, there is a lot going on right now, more than Bryant, about Jason Kidd and this mutual interest that him and the New York Knicks do harbor, and that does count for a lot. I mean, you look at what New York Basketball tweeted out, the list of coaches the Knicks interviewed in 2020 were Tibbs, Jason Kidd, Kenny Atkinson, Mike Woodson, Ime Udoka, Mike Brown, Jamal Mosley, Will Hardy, Pat Delaney, Chris Fleming, and Mike Miller. A bunch of them have either been NBA head coaches or are right now. I mean, Miller was the interim coach for the Knicks, did a very good job. Tom Thibodeau was the coach for the Knicks for 5 years after Miller, did a very, very, very good job. Jason Kidd, coach of the Mavs, and you see Kenny Atkinson, coach of the year with Cleveland. Mike Woodson coached Indiana after he joined the Knicks as an assistant for 5 minutes. Ime Udoka became the coach of the Celtics and then evidently the Houston Rockets. Mike Brown, Jamal Mosley, both NBA head coaches. Brown obviously got fired from the Kings, but Mosley's still the coach of the Magic. Hardy, the coach of the Jazz. So there's a lot of guys here that have become NBA head coaches or currently are NBA head coaches. The Knicks are going to do a deep dive once again. They're not going to zero in too quickly. So even if we hear news go away from the Johnny Bryants of the world, it doesn't necessarily mean the Knicks aren't interested. It just means the Knicks are going to be diligent, as they always are, with this stuff, as far as we've seen Leon Rose do this. So that is more what we're looking at here. And now, in regards to Kidd, in regards to the fact that him and Jalen Brunson are very close and him and the Knicks like each other, this does start to add up a bit. I mean, you just look at what Steve Popper said. The one name I keep hearing is Jason Kidd. Under contract in Dallas, but intriguing with the Knicks already importing much of the Mavs training staff and Jalen Brunson having already played for Kidd on the Mavs, as well as having played for the Knicks. Both these two guys are point guards who left the Mavericks for the Knicks, obviously at different times in their career. But the Knicks do have Casey Smith, who came from the Mavericks coaching staff and is the vice president of player medicine and all that. And you see everything that's going on, and it does make sense. The Knicks have poached a few guys from the Mavs already. Now, obviously, Jalen Brunson's the biggest one, and Brunson loves Jason Kidd. He said, the relationship me and Jay Kidd have is very unique. The first thing he told me when I met him is, we got to get you paid. He did that. One thing I saw from him was he wanted us to do it on our own. He's like, all right, I'm going to give you guys this, this, and this. Go do it. We would play these little scrimmages in practice, and something happens, coaches call a timeout, and he's like, figure it out. Get out of the run. It happened during games too. I think the biggest thing I took from him personally was all the conversations we had. He was trying to make me better, and Jason Kidd obviously succeeded on that front. Brunson ended up breaking out when Luka Doncic was down with an injury against the Utah Jazz, a series the Mavericks won because of Jalen Brunson. We saw playoff Brunson early on, and Jason Kidd loves Jalen Brunson. After Brunson left the team, Kidd said, Bruising Brunson, very lucky to be able to coach him. For him to go to New York, get paid, run his own team, I'm happy for him. So everything we're seeing is that Jason Kidd and Jalen Brunson have this excellent relationship. We know that Jalen Brunson has an impact with the New York Knicks. We could sit here and pretend like he doesn't, but we all know that whatever Brunson says is going to hold serious water. This man is the captain of the team. He took the pay cut so the New York Knicks could win. What happens in turn of that? Brunson's going to get a say on everything. What we know for a fact, what I've been hearing, is that the players have a huge impact on who the next coach is going to be. Leon Rose, James Dolan, the whole crew, Brock Aller, William Wesley, they're all listening to what the players want. Now, the players, they were kind of against Thibodeau returning. This was a Leon Rose thing where Leon was like, you know what? I'm not willing to go down with Tibbs, and there's a real world that I probably should fire him. And William Wesley and Brock Aller in his ear saying fire him. James Dolan in his ear saying fire him and hire Johnny Bryant. And on top of that, what we're seeing is the players saying that they didn't know their roles or feel comfortable with what Tom Thibodeau was doing with them, and none of them had an undying faith in Tom Thibodeau. So what happened? Tibbs obviously ends up getting fired, and now the New York Knicks are picking up the pieces, and they're going to listen to their players because we know players had problems with Tibbs, and we are going to go over that in a following video today. So you guys want to make sure to be subscribed to this channel because we do have a great video on that coming out later on in the day as well. We got a ton of good content for you guys, and on top of that, we have a ton more news in this video. For instance, the fact that another name is being brought up as a potential Knicks head coach, one that not too many people were thinking of. You all know this guy. You take one look at him and you know exactly who it is. Not only is he one of the best New York Knicks head coaches of all time, who led the New York Knicks to an NBA Finals appearance as an 8th seed, on top of that, he was one of the best announcers basketball has ever had for the NBA Finals on that coverage with Mike Breen and Mark Jackson. And no, Mark Jackson is not an option. I already said it once, but I'm going to say it again. The Knicks are not even entertaining Mark Jackson as an option. So before we get those comments, it's not happening. But we all know who this is. Big Jeff Van Gundy, man. Jeff Van Gundy has been floated as an option for the next head coach of the New York Knicks. For Van Gundy to come back, he's been an assistant with the Clippers. He worked with the Celtics. He's gotten back into coaching, and teams have raved about how good he is at this. As mentioned by Kristen Winfield, Van Gundy is a close friend of recently released Tom Thibodeau, so his appetite for the job is unclear. Similarly, the Knicks' appetite for another trip down memory lane is uncertain. Van Gundy was an assistant from 1985 to 1996 and head coach from 1996 to 2002. The Knicks made an NBA Finals appearance and a Conference Finals appearance under his leadership, making the NBA Finals in 99 and the Conference Finals in 2000, where, wouldn't you know it, they lost to none other than the Indiana Pacers. Now, Kristen Winfield also mentioned that Van Gundy coached the Houston Rockets from 2003 to 2007. He then enjoyed a successful broadcasting career from 2007 to 2023, but in 2024, Van Gundy served as a senior front office consultant for the Boston Celtics, who went on to win the title that year. And in 2025, he served as an assistant coach on Tyronn Lue's Clippers staff, garnering rave reviews from his time in both Boston and Los Angeles, according to an ESPN report. So Van Gundy is beloved. Every team he goes to, they love him. He's one of the great basketball minds in history of the sport. I understand the hesitancy to sign an older coach. It was my big fear, if I'm being honest, with Jay Wright, is that he's older and that I don't really know if there's a guy who's been out of the game that long who should be coming back. I get you could say the same thing about Tibbs. For Van Gundy, I just feel like it's different because how good Van Gundy is at this thing. Jeff Van Gundy has adapted with the game. He always has, and he's been adamant about the adapt or die standard in sports. I do think Jeff Van Gundy would be a phenomenal coach of the New York Knicks. That being said, I do not think he will be, but it is an interesting topic that I did want to go over at least at some point. If Van Gundy gets hired by the Knicks, I will be very, I will be very happy. So I don't think it's going to happen. He's not my first choice, but if he does, geez Louise, if he does end up becoming the head coach of the Knicks or getting an interview, I would be thrilled. What would you guys think about all that? What do you think about Jay Wright not being in on the job? What do you think about now? Obviously, Johnny Bryant being the favorite with a bunch of other names like Jason Kidd jumping up. Do you think Jeff Van Gundy is a nice wild card? Let me know in the comments down below. Like this video, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Mark Jackson will not be head coaching the Knicks. Have a great day, and go Knicks.